All right, 2007 5th Annual Tempe Music Festival. I'm Thomas Bond with Pat DiNizio of the Smithereens. Welcome. Thanks for chatting with us.
Good to see you again. Don't worry, sir.
My pleasure. Smithereens have a new album out called Meet the Smithereens, an homage to the Beatles' first American album, Meet the Beatles. Give me the idea that came behind wanting to do that. You did the entire record. It's the same record as the Beatles put out, your version of their songs.
Well, several things sparked the idea, Tom. One was that we got invited to play at a Beatles festival in Louisville, Kentucky, an event called Abbey Road on the River. And we were asked to do an entire set of Beatles songs as interpreted or reimagined by the Smithereens. We got a great reaction. And in the middle of the show, the diehard Beatle fans, the Beatle maniacs, began to call out the Smithereens songs.
That's got to feel good.
It made us feel great. And I realized that there was some sort of crossover between the Beatle maniacs and the Smithereens fans, and we've often been called an American Beatles,
right.
You know, which is high praise as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
In any event, within several days of that successful concert, we began to receive emails from some of the very nice folks who attended the show, suggesting I burped. Is that going to get on camera? You got to edit that bit out. Can you edit it?
Hey, we're all natural here. We let it all hang out.
So anyway, I began to receive emails from these folks suggesting to us that it might be a good idea for us to consider doing an entire album of Beatle covers, our versions of them. I thought it was a great idea, and I called Bob Frank, the president of Koch Records, whom we've had a wonderful relationship with. They're the number one indie now, as proclaimed by Billboard, at least in the last issue. And I said, I've got an offer you can't refuse. And he said, what is it? I said, the Smithereens versus the Beatles. You know, as though it was some epic struggle for pop supremacy.
Right.
And he laughed and he said, I love it, let's do it. Which was refreshing in this era of committee decisions and, you know, corporate management of record labels. You know, a time when a guy like Tommy Mottola will get fired from Sony and they'll bring in a guy to replace him who has no music business experience. Refreshingly, he said, I love it, let's do it, just like that. In the way an Ahmet Ertegun would go with his cut.
Nice.
Or a Clive Davis in the old days would react. I put the word out on the internet to all of our supporters and friends, asking them that if we were to consider doing such an album, a Beatles tribute, what would they like to hear the Smithereens play? And the feedback was remarkable and very informative, but a little disturbing as well because their suggestions were all over the map.
Yeah.
It was everything from Please Please Me to I Want You, She's So Heavy from Abbey Road,
right.
to I Am the Walrus, to I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Every phase of the Beatles' career.
Every phase of their brief 10-year career.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point that it would have been virtually impossible to preserve any sense of continuity on one album in terms of the production value, so on the song. At around the same time, I came across a copy of a very good magazine called American Heritage. And the topic was 1964, the year that changed everything. They talked about Lyndon Johnson and the Great Society. They talked about the Civil Rights Movement.
My birth.
Your birth, the Vietnam War. But more
1964.
importantly, they seemed to stress Beatlemania in this particular issue.
Sure.
And how it changed the youth of America forever. It gave them a voice.
You as one of those youth.
Well, I was a kid in third grade when I first heard I Want to Hold Your Hand. I was actually playing guitar in bands before we ever heard of the Beatles.
Wow.
To learning songs by the Safaris like Wipeout.
Sure.
Surf City by Jan and Dean.
Classic.
And Big Girls Don't Cry by the Four Seasons. In any event, that sort of sparked it off in my mind. I realized, I believed, and I still believe that there was no album more historically important than Meet the Beatles, at least to American kids.
Yeah,
who heard it when
definitely.
it
That
came
whole
out.
baby boom generation grew up with that album.
And that changed everything. Within weeks of its release, there was a garage band on every corner in every small town in America, and I was one of them. And so for that reason, we decided to do something that no one, to my knowledge, at least at that point, had ever done, which is to do a Beatles album in its entirety from beginning to end.
Right.
And that album in particular was recorded at the height of their playing ability as a touring band. They had already broken in Europe, and they were on the road all the time. That album was done kind of piecemeal. They'd record a track in the afternoon, and then at night they'd come in.
Right.
Like they go out and they do a show.
And that album is different than the LPs that were released in Britain.
Yeah, well, the original version was called With the Beatles.
Right.
But it was mostly covers.
Right.
Smokey
Yeah, it's not
Robinson
the same song.
songs, girl group songs. What is unique about Meet the Beatles is that 11 out of 12 songs are originals. And these are very sophisticated compositions. Very minor key, very oddball, very innovative songwriting for guys that were barely 21 or 22 years old. So it was certainly the most difficult vocal assignment of my career, was to try to pay reverential respect to what they did and follow the blueprint, yet be myself, respect myself as well.
Well, and yourself not in your 20s any longer
Right,
either.
exactly.
So it's not as easy to hit those high notes.
No, certainly not. So we did the best that we could, and we approached it much in the same way that a classical musician, say like a Glenn Gould, someone that was a great piano player with a very distinctive style of their own, as luckily the Smithereens do have our own signature style. We played the notes much as a classical musician would play the notes, but we brought something of our own to it. So it sounds like the Beatles, but it sounds like the Smithereens unmistakably.
Right.
And it sounds retro, but it sounds thoroughly contemporary. It sounds
And that's a strength.
timeless.
That's a strength of the songs, and also a tribute to your own band as well, to be able to sound that way.
And our own records, throughout our 27-year career now, we've tried to make records that would be timeless, that would sound as relevant or timely 5 years down the road or 10 years. And
Well, as a
succeeded.
fan, let me tell you that you've succeeded. I still
you,
pull
Tony.
out my Smithereens records, and some of them are actual records on vinyl.
Yeah.
And I still listen to them that way. It's a thrill for me to sit here and talk to you. I know we've spoken before. Well, tell me, this is something that I wondered when I got the Meet the Smithereens disc, is the bass is played by the Thrilla, Severino.
Yes.
And I'm wondering what's going on with Mike there.
Well, the Thriller from Manila is filling in for Mike. Mike is on one of his hiatuses that he takes every several years or so.
Okay.
The last time he disappeared for about 2 years, and it turns out that he was in Culinary Institute. He wanted to open up a restaurant. It's 27 years. It's a long time. It's a long time to do one thing.
Oh, and it's amazing that you guys have been able to keep the four, original members together over that long a period.
Well, everybody needs a break now and then, so
Do you have the Thriller with you tonight?
Oh yeah.
Very nice. Well, that'll be my first time seeing
The Thriller
him.
from Manila is amazing. His real name is Severo Jornacion, and I needed to
Sounds
give him
like
a
a
name.
Brazilian name, is it?
He's Filipino.
Filipino.
He's American. He's born and raised in Los Angeles.
Interesting.
And he started as a Smithereens fan. He turned up at an in-store for our Green Thoughts album. That's
Wow.
And
Going back to 87,
and
right?
we became friends. We've been friends since that time.
That's awesome.
He's a fabulous musician, and we needed someone to step in and fill in Mike's very large shoes, and he does a wonderful job.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Tell me, I know last summer, I believe it was, you had the 7th Inning Stretch show on ESPN. I got a kick out of that.
You saw it.
I did? You bet I did.
Yeah.
I got the soundtrack. I saw the show.
Yeah.
I'm following you for a long time.
Well, with much interest, I would imagine. 7th Inning Stretch came about when I had become very ill with a very debilitating, life-threatening case of hives.
And you talk about that in the show.
They put me in and out of emergency rooms for the better part of a year, cutting off my breathing, and they put me on a very powerful and dangerous steroid called prednisone on a very high dosage. It blew my weight up to about 300 pounds. I was never in the greatest shape, but it got me to the point where I couldn't get off the couch. The only thing that got me off the couch was fantasizing about baseball, watching the Yankees play, and wishing that I could play ball again, just hardball as an adult, which is an opportunity up until very recently was not available to most of us. We played hardball in high school, junior high school, Little League. But if you didn't play college ball or go pro, there was no option.
Yeah, it was
You could
over.
only
What
play
did you do?
softball. So I walked into ESPN with this idea. I said, I want to try out for the minor leagues. And I told the concept of the show, and I said, I'm not going to do anything that my daughter can't watch or that my family would be embarrassed to see. I said, I can sit you down, I can take you to the Olive Garden for dinner.
Right.
And they'll open up a big can of sauce that you don't see, and they'll heat it up. And the spaghetti's par-cooked ahead of time. It'll be okay. We'll have a good time. Or you can come to my house and sit in my kitchen, drink some of my grandfather's homemade wine. I'll chop up the garlic for you. I'll saute in the olive oil, and I'll cook for you with love. I'll give you a meal you'll never forget. I said, that's the difference between most television programming and what I'm going to give you.
Right.
And I think we succeeded in that. We gave him a very unique program.
Well, I enjoyed the program very much, and it was great how you talked to George Thorogood and some other musicians. Springsteen was on there that are also baseball fans.
Bruce was on there for about 20 minutes. That's unheard of. He's never done anything like that before or since. Bruce Springsteen was in it, George Thorogood, Joan Jett, Gene Simmons from Kiss. Then we got Don Mattingly to give me batting lessons. Tony Gwynn, Cal Ripken, who later that year were elected to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
David Wells pitches to me off the mound at Fenway. And ironically, it ran 3 times and it's gone.
And it's gone with the ether. Hey, but I saw it and I enjoyed it.
You did.
Tell me, do you have some more TV things planned like that? Is that something that you'd like to get involved with?
I'm working on a couple. I'm working with a guy named Eddie Brill, who works on the Letterman show. He's a comedian.
Yeah, and he does the talent booking for them, right?
Yeah. And it's me learning how to be a stand-up comedian.
Oh, that's awesome.
Learning from the greatest comedians of our generation.
Oh, that sounds like a thrill. And just on the side, let me tell you that I also do stand-up comedy myself and have a good time doing it.
Let's do it, man.
Put me on the show. That'll be a lot of fun.
You know, there's you don't see any more comedy duos. There's no more Abbott and Costello.
True.
There's no more
Laurel and Hardy.
There's no comedy teams.
Right.
Playing off each other. So maybe me and
Yeah. I'll set you up. I'll be your straight man. That sounds good.
Well,
hey, I know you're
straight
here.
Man is the hardest gig.
I'm not scared of it. I know you're here to play with the Smithereens, but you've also recently had your own solo album. This is Pat DiNizio.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about that while you're here with the
sure.
Smithereens. I don't want to put you out, but
no, it's This is Pat DiNizio was influenced by an album that I really loved. It came out in '75 on the Fantasy record label by Tony Bennett and Bill Evans. It was called the Tony Bennett Bill Evans album or record. It was Tony really getting back to his roots after making very many lackluster albums for Columbia
in that
for
period.
A period of time. And I think he got dropped by Columbia. He'd been on the label 25 years. And that album really brought him back, brought him the respect of the critics and the audience. It was just solo voice and piano. I attempted a similar thing, except doing standards of our generation, or my generation, a solo vocal and piano version of California Dreamin' by the Mamas and Papas, Wichita Lineman, that great Glenn Campbell composition, For No One by the Beatles. And we did it upstairs in the empty upstairs room in my house in New Jersey. And I think it's a wonderful album.
Yeah.
You know, you get to see me or hear me stretch out a bit as a vocalist.
Definitely. It's a very different vibe after, obviously the rock and roll thing with the Smithereens.
Yeah.
A little bit of a piano, kind of a torch singing a little bit. It's a different feel.
It's been busy. We did 7th Inning Stretch. That was one soundtrack album. And a TV show. We did This is Pat DiNizio, which was a decidedly different sort of record. And now we've got Meet the Smithereens, which is our Beatles tribute record.
Tell me about what you have planned to promote that record. And it just came out about 8 weeks ago?
8 weeks ago.
Definitely this year, within 2007.
Yeah, I mean, we're very lucky with this record, especially after being together for 27 years, and that it's some sort of strange outside-the-box hit record. It's selling like crazy on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. iTunes, it broke some kind of record for downloads. I knew that this would probably be a better project to reintroduce the band to the world at large. A band that never went away, but our audience went away for a little bit.
Yeah.
They got married, they had children.
Sure.
They got jobs. Now the kids are grown, going to college, going back out again. These folks are buying records. And so we did that. We're going in the studio April 9th to start recording new songs. But what's beautiful is that through online music content providers like iTunes, it's a singles game again. It's a singles
Definitely,
market.
yeah.
So we can hopefully produce wonderful hit singles and then cobble together an album later on. Take my time with the writing process. Say, guys, I've just written a great new song. Let's record it. You record it, you mix it, later on that week it goes up on iTunes.
Yeah.
Very spontaneous process.
Yeah,
So
it's a
I'm
new
looking
world.
forward to
And
that.
you've got some great singles behind you. I know, not this record might have been overlooked a little bit, but God Bless the Smithereens and She's Got Away was that's one of my all-time favorite Smithereens songs.
There were some problems with the record label. We were mixing that record. The label went out of business.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, and then by the time they regrouped, most of the folks had already secured jobs working for .com things.
Right.
Was like the cusp of the .com
Right.
explosion. But this is the first Smithereens album released in the so-called digital age, where people feel comfortable downloading the music directly onto their iPods and they trust it now.
Right.
That didn't exist when God Save the Smithereens came out in '99. So we're dealing with an era now where it's so difficult to get in your car and travel from point A to point B. You're a nervous wreck by the time you get to a record store. Shopping is not the same experience. You can hardly read the type on the CDs.
Yeah.
Record buying was a unique experience because you're holding these 12-inch.
And it was more of a communal experience. You had to physically go someplace to buy a record.
Yeah.
Often you establish a relationship with people in the record store.
It's different, totally different now. But what you lose one thing and you gain something else.
Right.
So folks can shop at home in the privacy of their own home. They don't have to go out and deal with traffic and craziness.
And it comes right to your door when you buy it.
Or it comes right immediately.
Or right onto
online.
your computer.
Immediately. There's that immediacy that people crave these days. So for us, I think it's a boon rather than a distraction or a problem. And,
Yeah, definitely.
It's
Now, am I remembering right? I think Koch re-released God Bless the Smithereens with your first solo record as a double,
did.
right?
And I put together that package with them.
With some bonus tracks, if I remember right.
Bonus tracks, yeah. About at least 10 bonus tracks per disc.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. And I've noticed also that on Amazon, the greatest hits are selling like crazy too. So it's kind of...
As well it should. It's chock full of great songs.
Yeah, well, the new record, I think what set off this sort of snowball was a very favorable article about Meet the Smithereens by Alan Kozin in the New York Times.
Awesome.
And it was a huge article with pictures and everything, where he compared what we did, as I mentioned before, compared us to a group of classical musicians or a classical orchestra playing Beethoven.
Yeah.
Recreating a work written by another artist.
Sure.
So we'll take that,
Oh, yeah.
And it created a lot of
Especially in the
interest.
Times.
So it took us 27 years to get to the Times, but it's greatly appreciated. And there's a legion, there's an army of Beatles fans out there.
Still.
And some
more converts all the time.
Some like the idea of this, others don't, but we win them over.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a great record, and I'm glad to hear the band is in the studio making a new album because, as you said, it's been since '99. I'm anxious to hear some brand new Smithereens songs.
We kind of set the stage now for another Smithereens album.
Definitely.
I felt that it would get lost in the shuffle. So I'm glad that this sort of project came up. And sometimes these things just fall in your lap or it's divine providence or whatever, but it's a good record. And as one reviewer said, it sounds like we wrote the songs, which is high praise.
Yeah, very high
if
praise.
You can make them your own. So.
Now, you're a man who's weathered these ups and down times in the music industry, and I know for a while there you were doing the Living Room Tour, and I saw you on one of those when you came through town. That was such a great idea. Now a lot of artists have kind of jumped on that bandwagon. You kicked that off yourself. Is that something that you would like to continue?
I never really stopped doing them. I do less of them. We're pretty busy with the band.
Sure.
But yeah, I love doing those. Some of my best friends in the world to this day I met through the internet and talking to them on the phone. They booked me in their homes.
And they're very
really
intimate performances.
People.
And you knock yourself out, man. You'll play a good, hour-long set, take a break, do another hour-long set or more.
Yeah, it helped me develop as an artist or performer or musician and a storyteller because I believe in giving people more than what they pay for. I try. At least I do try to do that. And I want people to walk away thinking that was one of the greatest things, if not the greatest that I ever saw. I want people to feel good. And what we're supposed to do if you have a gift for anything that kind of will help people get through the day or help them get through the problems or the difficult spots in their lives, that's what music is all about.
Definitely.
And I think in the end, that's what I'm here to do. But I like sort of pioneering new concepts, trying different things. And I'm working on something right now. I can't even tell you about it because somebody will steal the idea.
Don't tell me.
But it's a whole new way to promote
Don't tell
a
me on
record album.
camera.
You'll know about it, and we'll talk about it the next time.
Sounds good.
Because nobody's done it before, and it's going to work.
Tell me for the Smithereens set tonight, are you going to be previewing anything new off the album?
Yeah. Yes.
I will look forward
We'll
to
do
that.
a song.
And I imagine you got to hit
way.
a couple of Beatles songs in there as well.
Yes, we will.
Perfect.
You know me all too well, Thomas.
I do my best. Hey, thank you so much, Pat.
Thank you, my friend.